are hearing is students reading Tibetan aloud in classrooms.
They say that these boarding schools are being forcibly run, that the kids are not being able to study traditional Tibetan education.
These children have been sent to re-education schools where they are brainwashed. Once there, these children have to take a compulsory course in the Mandarin language.
In recent years, how China is forcing 1 million Tibetan children into boarding schools for assimilation has made headlines in Western media. In August, it even became the basis for a new round of US sanctions on China.
To verify the facts, we decided to visit boarding schools in the region. One of the key claims in Western media is that the students are required to abandon their Tibetan cultural traditions and are compelled to learn Mandarin at school.
So we have come to this boarding school and we can check the curriculum here. And not only they learn Mandarin, they also learn the Tibetan. And we can see every day they got Tibetan classes, and it's actually more than the number of the Putonghua classes. So we got this classroom. It looks they are teaching Tibetan. Let's check it out. 老师你好，你们在上什么课呀？藏文课。哦。来拍一下吗？可以。藏文教研室。
藏文教研室就这里。好的。
哦，那现在6年级一个星期要上多少节藏文课呀？
我带2个班，所以有20多节。
那平常他们除了学藏语，还学哪些藏族文化相关的课程吗？
还有那种作文、藏文的那个字体方面。
就相当于书法课。
对，书法课，还有藏文那种朗读也有。
朗读。你们有多少个藏语老师？
藏语老师的有20
多
个。
Outside the classroom, the county's deputy chief agreed to talk with us.
我们平时都是用双语交流，一个是我们要学好普通话，同时我们一定要学好我们当地这个民族历史，我们当地的语言文化，这非常重要的。藏语课呢，必须要用藏语来上课。功能课里面我们教育藏族的这个文化学科，藏族的这个书法课，还有藏族的这个历史、舞蹈等等方方面面我们都设立一些功能课。因为我们作为一个藏区这边的话，我们这个民族历史习惯方方面面，还是小朋友要从小要养成。
On campus, we met a group of students just after class. We asked how they feel about studying in this boarding school.
这是寄宿制学校，听说你们每个学期都要在这边待好几个月。
对。
是吗？那你会觉得来这边上学比较辛苦吗？上学累不累啊？
不累。
不累，好玩吗？
好玩。
是吗？然后你们平常上课都上哪些课呀？
上数学、科学、语文、藏文的。
藏文课也上。平常上藏文课多吗？
多。
那你平常在
Students also showed us their dormitory and canteen.
你是前面
好，走慢一点。好干净啊，被子叠得好干净啊。
You can see it's cozy and tidy, unlike the inhumane or degrading environment described in Western media.
Boarding schools play an essential role in providing quality education in this vast yet sparsely populated land.
本身是我们这个牧区，它的居住环境就在一个村里面，一个户与户之间都是有几十公里、20-30公里。难道他们中午的时候骑着摩托车过来取小孩，完了之后给他们一些中午的照顾，完了之后还要送过来，那他们的生产生活怎么办？那这个路途安全又怎么办？小孩的教育又怎么办？
Some scholars have compared the development history of boarding school in Tibet with the data of boarding schools in other provinces across the country. The result shows that places with a high urbanized has lower number of boarding schools. On the contrary, low urbanized places has higher number of boarding schools. It means the percentage boarding school has nothing to do with Tibet's ethnic nature, but with its degree of economic development and urbanization.
We talked with the educational chief in Seni district, Nachi City. She shared her personal story to us. This can be an example of how boarding schools in Tibet have improved lives.
我的话，小时候是在那曲读书， 享受了国家的一个好的政策，就是现在咱们有内地西藏班，也是寄宿制。我在祖国内地转了一圈回来，我再为西藏服务，我觉得更好呀，因为我见识了更大的世界。出去了之后是更加热爱自己的祖国。我们何其有幸生在这样的国家里面，享受这样的教育资源。
西方媒体一个很大的一个关注哈，平时在看到的时候，他们会觉得是这个中国共产党在强制同化藏族的同胞，就要把他们汉化。
我们这边农民要种田，牧民要放牧，要有工作，那他们的子女，国家说，哎，你别花钱，你放心，你把孩子交给我，我吃穿教育我全部都给你包圆了。我实在是无法理解这个东西为什么能成为一个被攻击的对象，我觉得非常奇怪。那欧洲为什么精英教育恰恰搞的是寄宿制教育呢？现在我们更广大的学生能享受到优质教育的时候，为什么又能提出来这个话呢？这不是典型的双标吗？
The teachers believe learning Mandarin is as important as learning Tibetan because it opens up better opportunities.
如果小孩初中一毕业，他万一考上内地的一些好的一些学校，那他不懂一点普通话的话，跟其他的老师也跟其他的一些同学根本就没办法交流。
其实学习普通话是让他们得到更好的、更优质的发展的机会。
对，是这样的。我就觉得他们肯定没有更深刻去了解、体会这些内容。 也没有考虑到将来的小孩的一些前途啊之类的，所以肯定会说这些胡言乱语。
After our on-site investigation, I wonder how this 1 million Tibetan children narrative came to be.
We delved into hundreds of reports from media outlets such as the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. It turns out they heavily rely on anonymous sources or single personal stories from people outside the region. Take, for example, the New York Times. 1 million Tibetan children in China's boarding schools tells the story of Jialo, a Tibetan separatist.
We looked on Google Scholar and in Chinese academic databases, but we couldn't find any academic publication from this so-called expert.
But he's actively churning out articles endorsed by the Tibetan separatist movement.
He seems more like a mouthpiece for these organizations, kind of like Adrian Zhang, who is known for being a manufacturer expert on Xinjiang. We traced the story back to a 2021 report from the US-based separatist movement organization, the Tibet Action Institute.
The poorly researched report relied entirely on confidential sources, anecdotes, and interviews with a few individuals to conclude that boarding school is a bad thing. They estimated that 800,000 students are in the boarding school, thus these students are all going through forced assimilation. Despite these substantial deficiencies, the story gained traction thanks to authors like Radio Free Asia, and eventually made its way into mainstream Western media.
This is a secret channel we've debunked time and again, a poorly researched report that is whitewashed by the propaganda machine of the US government like RFA, and then it becomes a news source for mainstream media like the New York Times. This narrative has now become the basis for the US State Department to impose sanctions on China.
It was a long history how boarding school used as a method of assimilation in the United States, Canada, South America, etc. So it is easy for people whose knowledge about China merely from media to be misled by those who use Tibet and Tibetan as a hot topic for their political propaganda. I would recommend hearing voices from those who themselves had experience as boarding school students.
It seems the Western media did not prioritize accuracy and desperately needed a new angle to discredit China, but these lies were challenged by real on-the-ground reporting.